Welcome to the Yoga Mukunda app. I'm Mukunda Mark Masao Morozumi. A lot of M's. You can just call me Mark. Some people call me Mukunda. Mukunda is a Sanskrit name, and this name means giver of liberation. I was given the name Mukunda during my 2009 yoga teacher training with Integral Yoga at the Swami Satchidananda Ashram in Yogaville. This is a powerful name, and I am grateful to have it and to include this in the journey of sharing the yogic teachings with you. Muk, Mukha, Mukti is the root of Mukunda, and it means liberation. In Buddhist traditions, yogic traditions, it's understood that much of the pathway of our practice is to be able to feel that sense of freedom, that self as a liberated being in the world. My practice has taught me so much, and it has inspired me to want to share what I've learned through this lineage of ancient teachings and my own personal journey of exploring what yoga can be and a practical application. Many of us know at this point that yoga is more than just a physical practice. That has been an emphasized part of yoga, and it has brought yoga more and more into the public eye in the West and even in the East. What I hope to do is to share the full expression of what yoga is, or as much as I can be able to share through this app, that it actually has many components that ultimately help us towards feeling more clear and focused in the mind. Many of the yogis and sages and our history helps us understand that the mind is typically where we can get caught. It's where we can think of ourselves as this limited being. The ego self really steps forward and it says, I am all that there is. What we can practice, what we can tap into is an understanding that there is far more than that. There is a vast universe of expression of the self. Now, while that might not be very practical to walk around with that way of being in the world with all of the different limitations that do exist in the universal laws, it can be helpful to tap into that as a way to expand consciousness, to understand this holistic and very vibrant way of being in the world. When we limit ourselves, when we identify primarily with our ego self, when we identify with our survival self, that may be our best way of functioning to make it through the day. But to be able to release ourselves from some of the structures that have been imposed upon us, and to recognize that we can expand and cultivate a more powerful self. We can empower ourselves with a practice that unifies the way that we see the world, the way that we see one another, and we begin to recognize there aren't so many differences, and there's more reason to want to work on uniting than on separating. To work with this app, there'll be many pathways that you can choose. For the beginner pathway, I'll offer what I call anchor points to help you build and create a nice foundation to relate to the postures and to the yoga practice. I'll also offer an intermediate and an advanced practice path. Now, this doesn't mean that it's necessarily more complicated in a physical way. Sometimes it's actually a more intellectual path where we can make decisions on when we need to rest. We build our skill with discernment to be able to distinguish between this is for me, this is the way I need to adjust, this is the way that I need to move through the practice today. That to me is an advanced practitioner versus one who feels that they need to push, that you're trying to imitate just simply for the sake of mirroring something that almost might trigger a competitive way of thinking about the practice, versus one that is truly for the self to be able to evolve and grow. I invite you to explore what might be the right path. Sometimes an advanced practitioner can choose the anchor points to go back and refresh and understand ways to recognize where there may be some habitual patterns. There may be ways that you explore to find what works best on your body at any given time. This is not a linear path. Things may change from day to day, month to month, year to year. And I certainly don't have all the answers. I simply share what I've learned through my path and from my trainings. I share what has come to me as I practice on the mat and as I walk through life and understand the practical applications of yoga. So that's what I hope to share with you with this app. I'm excited that you'll get to build at a pace that works for you. You'll be able to choose when you practice, where you practice, invite people to practice with you, and we'll go from there. You may choose to start off with this being primarily a physical practice, and then at some point recognize that this could cover different areas of life, even the choices that we make with our food and our diet. Maybe the choices we make socially. Maybe the choices of what media that we connect with, what we bring into our eyes, ears, mouth, etc. This is a path that you will get to unfold as we go. The journey of yoga itself moves from the physical practice more towards subtle practices that lead us to a natural state of meditation, and then even beyond meditation, recognizing all of these tools lead us towards that state of a liberated being. We begin to recognize there is a realm of bliss that is connected to an infinite realm of oneness. So whether this comes to you in a very clear and accessible way, or if this sounds a little enigmatic or even problematic, I hope that you will start slowly or work through this in a way that works for you. And there'll be a community to connect with. I'll be available as another pathway to be able to have conversation and see how I can support you even more. This app will continue to unfold as the community builds. So thank you so much for making the connection with the Yoga Mukunda app, and let's get started with the next section. So let's move on to the next section and discuss how we can start where we are.